Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, indie horror and Jane Eyre. It's my weekly wrap-up. So before I start, just wanted to wish a very, very happy birthday to Pax Panic, who celebrates her birthday today. So I hope you have a wonderful day, Pax. For people who are regular viewers on the channel, you'll know that Pax is going through a terrible time. I will leave a link to her GoFundMe in the description for the video, should anybody want to chip in and buy her a little birthday present, perhaps. So yeah, happy birthday, Pax. I hope you have a really good day. Right, so moving on to normal content of the video then. So firstly, kind of a mini announcement. So as people who've been kind of watching the channel recently will know, I've started getting into reading manga, and what I've decided to do is not to talk about manga in this video. I'm going to do a new regular video on a Monday called Manga Mondays or something like that. We'll see how that goes. If people absolutely hate it, I might stop doing it. But my plan is to do a separate manga wrap-up on a Monday where I talk about the manga I've read over the weekend. And my plan going forward is I'll just read manga at the weekend, and I'm trying to kind of spread out the series that I'm reading. So I'll just read one instalment per weekend or every other weekend, depending on the series. So yeah, look out for that on Monday. If you're interested in manga, I thought I'd separate that content out and have it in a separate video. So that people who are, who aren't fans of manga, who are here for the books, don't have to put up with the manga stuff. So yes, that will be coming up on Monday. So in terms of this video then, so I'll talk about what I've been reading. I'll talk about some stats. So as I previously said in last week's video, I'm going to start reporting on books in and books out, and where I am with that in my attempt to read at least as many books as I receive. So currently I am 2 books behind this month. So I've had 21 books come in, and I've finished 19 books so far, and that is including manga. So some of those books that have come in this week in particular are ones I bought. So I bought some manga, I bought a few Kindle books this week as well. I may do a little book haul video, and I've also had a couple of things come in from authors and publishers as well. So yeah, I've had quite a lot come in this week, but I've read a decent amount as well. So I've got, I think, 6 or 7 or 8. I think I may have 8 books to talk to you about. So yeah, it's been a reasonably, actually no, 7 books. I've finished 7 books this week. So it felt like it was a slow week reading wise, but clearly not. Although helped by the fact that I finished 2 books already this morning. I've had a really productive reading morning, and I've read a couple of short things this week as well, which always helps. So let me go through what I've been reading. So in no particular order, actually let's do it in a kind of an order. So let's talk about this book first, The Cement Garden by Ian McEwan. So I think I mentioned this in last week's wrap-up video because I just started it. Wow, this was good. I expected it to be good, but it really was good, and it's got a very strange feel to it. So it's a book about some children, so a couple of teenagers, a couple of younger kids who are like siblings, and their mum dies, and they are kind of freed from the shackles of having parents, basically, and can do whatever they want. And the book goes to some very dark places. So yeah, a really interesting book, and fantastically well written as well. I thought the prose in this book was really excellent. So I will do probably a review video for this book as part of my Disturbing Books project. I really did think it was very good though. Another book I really enjoyed, Flesh Rehearsal by Brian Bowyer. So typically for Bowyer's books, this is a really enjoyable and intriguing mix of kind of horror and other things. So it's got kind of a bit of a crime feel to it at times, about various characters and how they interact with each other, particularly focusing around some people, pair of siblings who are the children of a famous rock star, and various people from his life. So he's passed away now, so various people from his life. There's a bizarre serial killer kind of subplot that runs through the book. It was a very strange book, very graphic at times. I really had a good time with it though. Also read, and I have done a review of this, so this was featured in, I had a video go up this last week where I talked about self-published books. So this was one of the books I talked about, Feel Real by Luna Shorio, which was an interesting read. So a book about a young woman who's been abused by her father and kind of the impact that's had on her mental state, really, as much as anything else. So an interesting book told from multiple perspectives, which worked quite well in this book. I wouldn't recommend it unreservedly. There's some very troubling content in here, and the writing isn't perfect at times. But I did think it was an interesting book with definitely some stuff to recommend it. It gets the kind of emotional side of things done really well, I thought. Moving on then, I'm going to save this one for last. So let's talk about this, The Har by David Sodergren, which I finished this morning. A short Scottish horror novel. It was just a lot of fun. It really was fun. I really like David Sodergren. So he's a self-published author who's very prolific. I think he's published 6 or 7 books now, and they're all just different takes on the horror genre, different kind of different subgenres and things like that covered. This is, I guess, kind of a mix of folk horror and body horror. It was very strange at times. So about this small Scottish fishing community where there's an evil property developer who's trying to build a golf course and evict people who've lived there for decades from their homes. But the central character, who's this 80-year-old woman or 80-plus-year-old woman, meets this bizarre sea creature, which enables her to battle the property developer in various ways. So just a really fun book, really graphic at times, but I really enjoyed the scenes of horror in this. So yeah, it was very entertaining. And I think I'm going to do, in the week ahead, I think I'm going to do a video where I talk about a few indie horror books that I've read recently that I've really, really enjoyed. This will be one of them, and Flesh Rehearsal will be one of them as well. 2 things on Kindle then. So I read a book called Black Mamba by an author called William Friend, which is, so it's out in the UK. It's not out in the US yet, and I think it's coming out in the US in October, and I think it's been retitled in the US to let him in. So this was an interesting book. So I read this as a buddy read with Michelle from the channel, Michelle's Melancholia. It was kind of an impromptu, spur of the moment buddy read, because she'd got it out in the library and I had it lingering on my Kindle. Lurking on my Kindle? I don't know. It was on my Kindle anyway. So yeah, it was interesting. Michelle liked it more than me, but I thought it was decent. So it's a book about a guy who's got 2 young daughters. The mother has died, and the daughters start talking about this imaginary friend they've got called Black Mamba, who's this mysterious guy who kind of turns up and comes into their room at night and stuff like that, and can transform himself into different animals. And it's about basically the father and their aunt as well trying to figure out if what the girls are talking about is actually real, or if it is just an imaginary friend. So very, very creepy at times. Some quite effective writing. It was a bit kind of tricky at times, I guess, in terms of, quite often he would end a chapter with a mysterious twist and things like that. But it was the first half in particular I found really quite gripping and really quite creepy. In the second half I found I got a bit confused about exactly what was going on. There was a load of kind of backstory thrown in, and it all got quite complicated. And it's also got a very ambiguous ending, which I don't normally mind, but in this book, because I think by that point it had kind of lost me a bit, in terms of getting a bit too complicated for my simple mind in the second half. By the time I got to the end, I wasn't really that fussed anymore about what was going on. But yeah, Michelle liked it a lot more than me, so do check it out if it sounds interesting to you. And then also read this morning a short novel, and I don't know if this is a horror novel or not. I think it kind of is. So this is Skull-Faced Boy by Chad Lutsky. So this was the book club pick for my Patreon book club this month. So every month my patrons pick a book for us to read together, and this was the pick for this month. Varying people in the group have had varying responses to this book. Some people really liked it, some people didn't like it so much. I ended up really, really enjoying it. And again, I think I'll include this in my indie horror video, which I'll do this week. So I won't talk too much about it. But basically, as the name would suggest, it's about this young guy called Levi who has a skull for a face. Basically, he doesn't have a fully formed flesh face. He just has a skull, and it's about him going on a quest, basically across America. So it was a book that felt like at times I couldn't tell where it was going, and I couldn't tell why it was going there either. But it was really entertaining. He meets a load of different characters along the way, and I found each of those kind of interactions really interesting. So in the end, I did have a really good time with it. And then finally, the book that stands out like a sore thumb from the rest of them, but my favourite book I finished this week, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So this was a buddy read I did with one of my patrons, Jennifer. This was so good. This was so good. I really didn't know what to expect from this. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it. I absolutely loved it. I really, really loved this book. So, you probably know the story, but about this young woman called Jane Eyre, who's an orphan, who grows up with her aunt, who's terrible, and her aunt's family, and basically eventually, leaves them and manages to make a life for her own, and becomes the governess for this young girl who's the ward of a guy called Mr. Rochester. So there's romance, but more than anything, it's just the romantic subplot in this book is really important, and they are Jane and Rochester are a famous literary couple, but more than anything, it felt to me like this book was just about a young woman finding her way in the world. And I thought it was wonderful. It can be very funny at times. It can be really creepy at times. There's some quite effective kind of horror type scenes early on. There's some very dramatic scenes. It's really, really gripping at times. I just thought it was a fantastically well-rounded book, which is probably not a surprise given that it's an enduring classic, but I really, really did enjoy it an awful lot. So in terms of what's been on the channel in the last week or so then, I did yesterday a video about 4-star books that I've come to feel actually deserve 5 stars. I've done a 3 review videos this week. So I did a review of Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover, a review of Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison, and a review of Psychic Teenage Bloodbath by Carl John Lee, and then also did a video about self-published books, why I enjoy reading self-published books even when they aren't perfectly polished, and then also did a video about my kind of plans for reading manga and things like that. In the week ahead then, so I think I'm going to do a video tomorrow talking about like breakout authors, so authors who've become very quickly phenomenally successful. I'm going to do a review, as I said, of The Cement Garden by Ian McEwan. And I'll do my new manga video on a Monday, so we'll see how that goes. And then, as I said a bit earlier, I'm probably going to do a video about some really good indie horror books I've read recently. Okay, time for a random book from the shelves. Something a bit different today. So I was just looking through the shelves and plucked this one out. So this is The Iron Man by Ted Hughes, a very well-known children's book, which is lovely. And this is a really nice edition as well. This is an ex-library edition that I got, but it dates from the 70s. So it's just charmingly worn, and it's got kind of stains and things like that in it, which I rather like in a book. A few pen marks and things. But yeah, a lovely children's book, which I definitely recommend if you haven't read it. There's a very good animated movie version of this story as well, so check that out too. Particularly if you've got little ones, the movie is really, really excellent. So I hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about. Let me know what you've been reading this week. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.